Shalom. So we're gonna discuss relationships or marriages in the Hebrew community, right? So one of the first thing is the Most High take the man and he cleansed him with his word, with his wisdom, his knowledge, and his understanding. This is Genesis 2 and verse 7, right? So the first thing, the Most High created a connection. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So, right, the Most High give his wisdom, his knowledge, and his understanding to his people, right? And he remodeled the man. Now the man is what? Serving the Most High. He's after his heart, right? Now, the next thing is verse 15 says, And the Lord God took the man and put him into the garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. So the next thing, as we can see here, an inheritance. And the importance of the inheritance is that the woman, when she gets with a man, she doesn't have to worry about the son that she will give to the man, right? Because the inheritance is there already, and that has always been one of the main concerns about the woman back then, right? They want to be sure that the son has an inheritance. And this is why they would want to be with a man. Today is very different. Women just want to see men wearing jacket and tie, even if they have no lands, no resources, no assets, nothing. You understand? Just a bunch of student loan, and they're okay with it. Now here you see the inheritance is very important, which we can understand today. We don't really have that because a lot has been taken from us. So it's very rare to find a black man that has such inheritance, right? We know it exists, but most of us don't have, right? So it's just gonna be a job. That's the most we're gonna have today, a job. You'll find a few established men and so forth, but it it boils down to a job, right? So that's one of the things that a woman should look for when going into a relationship, right? That should be one of the biggest concerns. Okay, if I have a child for this man, how will the future of that child be, right? What if something should happen to the father? What are the securities for the child? You understand? So, okay, that piece of land is going to be for the child, and those, animals, the cattle, whatever it is, a certain field to plant your stuff. So you know that the food will always be there for the child and stuff like that. Right? Now, in one of the things with the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, it teaches discernment, right? Judgment and grace. So, as you can see in verse 17, it says, But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. So the Messiah is really also showing Adam discernment, right? And Adam would teach his wife that. So it's the same thing with us. We are learning the Messiah's judgment, and we're teaching to our wives today, right? Now, verse 18. And the Lord God said, It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him. So you see, the man got the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding. Now he starts connecting with the Most High. So he's following after the Most High, right? Now he has a land, he has a job to do, he has responsibility to take care of, right? So now he is ready to take on the responsibilities of a wife, right? So he says, I will make him an helpmeet for him. No, a lot of us men today, we just talk to a woman and we use the term helpmeet. Not because you're in a relationship with the woman, it doesn't mean that she is an helpmeet. An helpmeet is a woman that actually brings you closer to your goal. So you cannot be in this field and she has no interest in it. That's not an helpmeet. All right, so that's another thing. Now, verse 21 says, And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. So, another thing is that there are a lot of nations among us, around us, dwell with us, right? But the Most High gave him a wife of his kindred, and he took one of his rib. one from his kindred, and close up the flesh instead thereof. So he closed the family unit right there, right? So just like you see our forefathers, Abraham sent his servant to get a wife for his son Isaac. He said, don't take a daughter of the Canaanites and so forth. Take one from within our kindred, our people, right? So that's where they close up the family unit. So if the Most High gives you one wife, that's the family unit there, right? If he blesses you with two wives, that's the family unit right there. But it has to be within your kindred, right? Now, verse 24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Right? Because what happened is sometimes you're coming from a family background, she's coming from a family background, and they don't really deal with the Most High. So sometimes you really have to step away from families to really serve the Most High, to be a king in your kingdom. You have to get away from wicked family members. Just as you read up here, let me go back there. It says, verse 8, let me highlight and read. Verse 8, it says, and the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. So what is it telling you? Adam was not originally there. Adam was from another place, and the Most High moved him to that chosen land. Same thing with the Israelites, with Moses. They were dwelling in a certain place. The Most High moved them from there and put them to that chosen place. It has always been that way. The Most High is always moving us, right? So you saw it with Abraham. Yes, Abraham as well. He had to get out of the land of Uz, where the Most High would bless him. Because sometimes to get our blessings, we really have to step away from family members. And a lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because a lot of you are going through these problems dealing with your family members that don't deal with the Most High, and you are trying to serve the Most High. And it's hard to do that in your family's house, right? Especially if they're accustomed to like other religions and so forth, then they'll see it as paganism, right? They'll see these Hebrew teachings because they're not familiar with it. They'll see it as something different. Like, what are you practicing? You know, right? Now, verse 25, let me highlight also and read it because this one is very important. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. One of the main things why a lot of us cannot keep the laws today is because we're ashamed. Now, just an example of a woman. What if all your girlfriends are in the world? You're waking up to this truth, right? Now, your girlfriend said something to you, like they're inviting you somewhere, and you said, okay, I'm gonna have to ask my husband first. They're gonna look at you weird. They're gonna laugh at you like, who asked their husband to go anywhere? You know? And this is why sometimes we our people are ashamed to keep the Most High's laws because of the people who we are among. Right? They'll make you seem as if you're stupid or you're doing something wrong to keep the Most High's law because you're living in a wicked society that do not regard the Most High. Right? They don't want you to respect your husband. So if you're doing that, it's like you're weird. What if you're going somewhere with them and or whoever and you're wearing this dresses and skirts and head wraps? They're gonna say, girl, you look like some church girl. So these things is why some of our women are ashamed to keep the laws because of the people, the influence that they are around. It's the same thing with our men. They cannot really care for the woman the way they should care for because guess what? They grow up around men who see that as what they call in America a simp or I think whatever it is, right? They see that as some weakness. Like, dude, you really giving that to a woman? You really caring for a woman that way? You really, you know what I mean? They'll spend a lot of money on alcohol and stuff, but they would not help their woman with that, with something essential. You understand? They would see a woman that that has a child and there is no father, and they cannot willingly help that child without an intention. Even when the wisdom says take care of the fatherless, they don't see that, but guess what? They will want something from that woman. They will try to get sex pleasure in any way from that woman, but they will never build her up. And this is why it says, and they were both naked, the man and his wife, and they were not ashamed, right? They were not open to the teachings of the Most High, but they were not ashamed of his laws, his statutes, his commandments. Shalom.